Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you're having a good week. I, for one, am having a great one. This week, we're going to bring you the interview that I spoke of a few weeks ago with Chris Muir from DayByDay. I want to apologize ahead of time to everyone for the poor audio quality. We're having interference with my cell phone that was picking up on the mic, and that caused a little bit of issue. I tried to work it as best that I could to make it at least hearable and audible and something that you could listen to and hopefully get something out of. So without further ado, here's the interview with Chris. So we'll just get started. First off, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's helps the show, and hopefully I help you and drive some traffic to your site and your work. So I appreciate it.
Not at all. I did leave a comment on my site that I'll be talking to you around 10, but they'll get it. Most of my readers are your readers, vice versa.
That's cool. So. That's cool. I like that kind of stuff. I like to help out other creators, and we're all in this together, I think. So you gotta do what you can do.
That's one fine mess we're in.
Yeah, exactly. So give us a little bit about who you are and your background.
All right. Well, essentially, I was a product designer, industrial designer for almost 30 years, manufacturing. That's kind of a combination of aesthetics and styling and manufacturing processes. And when I graduated from college in '81, that's exactly when they started shipping out everything to China. So it was basically a dead man walking career.
Right.
But it was fun. I was my own consultant, but essentially just got starved out. All the small companies started disappearing, the ones that I'd worked with here in Florida. You used to be able to walk into any industrial mall, pick up a job right there, talk to the president direct. And then they were replaced by accountants, and then they were replaced by people who didn't know what they were doing because all the good people were leaving manufacturing. So I decided before that, about 7 years before it all petered off to nothing, I put up DayByDay in 2002, November, because it bothered me that normal, not conservative, normal people didn't have much of a voice, at least in comic strips. Doonesbury's very funny. He's got a great sense of humor, but he's very much a leftist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's good at that. I have to hand it to him, but he's completely wrong. But that's his deal. And so I just put it out there for free for a while because I did it at night when I was working. But then when my job went away, I was actually applying to a 7-Eleven for a job.
Wow.
Because I have no work history. I always work for myself. And then I thought, well, what the heck? I'll throw a fundraiser like NPR does, just see if I can scrabble by for a few months. And that first time, I made enough to go for 8 months or so of the normal design salary, and then I said, okay, let's do this permanently. And fortunately, readers have been there for about 15 years now. It pretty much stays within 2 to 3% from that time. So I've got I think I originally had like 150,000 readers a month, and then it's down to about 4,500. But the amount comes in, or the donors are about the same. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, patrons run everything. They're my bosses, and I'm very grateful for them, just as I know you have some. And it's just, it's kind of like the old blogosphere. If you remember, that started up, and the blogosphere I'm running off here. But anyway, so that's how I ended up in the cartooning. I had to do it, and I had not picked up cartooning since I was a kid. But I looked at what the newspapers were putting out. I thought, I can do better than this. And I guess I was one of the first to do a digital comic strip. I figured from production methods, I was able to do it as a one-man. I didn't want any employees. So everything would be in a Photoshop and Illustrator. And I did get an offer at a syndicate up in New York, but they wanted me to take out the girls, and they wanted me to take out the conservative politics, which doesn't leave a lot.
Yeah, which is kind of the meat of what you're doing there, right?
Yeah, it was... There was an old strip called by Milton Caniff in World War II called Mail Call, M-A-L-E Call, and it was sort of a hotty-toddy strip just for overseas. It was not published here, and he didn't show anything, but he had hot babes and interesting politics. I thought, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Right.
And so that's just nothing more from that desire to put in a normal perspective with, I draw a lot of women because I don't much like drawing men. So that's how that kind of ended up.
Awesome. So did you have any formal art training at all, or was that just something you developed on your own?
No, I just always knew how to do it. I don't know why. I hadn't picked up anything on cartooning. I did cartooning when I was a kid, but I never applied it. It was a complete surprise that it would be my source of living income because there's damn all else. The training. There was some training. I had a degree in industrial design, bachelor's of science in Cincinnati. But honestly, I found college was more effective in the sense of organizing your mind more than anything else. We had a 5-year course, and I remember one of my classmates said 3 years would have sufficed because they had a strong co-op program. So I learned more with my dad, who was also an industrial designer. I knew more by the time I was 16 because I went on business trips with him than I ever found out in college, but it was useful. But yeah, formal training, not really. And but I did experiment over time. I did a single panel cartoon strip called Altered States for Florida Today as a test to see if I could put out the product because I wanted to be able to do it. It's really kind of rare to find a comic strip with characters and more than 2 or 3 panels running. There's 4 or 5 maybe. I think there's Stone Toss just started up, or it's been around for 3 years. Most are single panels, and the thing is, I wouldn't say anyone can do a single panel, but to put out every day a 3-panel strip is, that usually takes a syndicate with 20 people. So it was a lot of fun to boil it down. I'm a minimalist, and the writing is the fun part, the easy part. I don't much like drawing, but one has to do it. So it's a very like a one-stop shop, and I've gotten used to it. I can do it pretty much. Well, I have for 20 years.
It catches up with you, doesn't it?
It does. When I started, Zed was older than I was. Now I'm older than he is. And characters don't age in the comic strips. They go up to a certain age and then they stop. So that's kind of interesting that he hasn't lost any of his hair, the dog. You do what you can. It's like, well, whatever. But the writing style, I have to say, basically the same. It took me about 3 or 4 years to figure out what the characters were saying. After a while, they actually start talking to you, which is interesting. And if they don't put you away, at least you have a source of interesting ideas. And so I tried to balance it with politics and the interaction between men and women, and just what most couples or most people bump into every day. And I just didn't see much of that out there. It has been a lot of political, but the history of this country is really focusing. It's like a fourth turning. So there is. When I started, there were maybe 5 articles I could write about. Now there's 50, maybe 100, and all of them incredibly important every day. And so you don't want to do a doom and gloom thing because there are some nice things that may come out of this. Probably will, but you'll have to go through some heat before that. So it's try to get the news of the day in a brief blurb, but have some fun with it, kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah, I struggle sometimes with content and trying to put together a show. So I have a huge admiration for somebody that can do it on a day-to-day basis like that, and especially to accompany it with artwork. That's awesome.
Well, it's made easier because I remembered when the blogosphere started, there were sources of great content like yours and others that I skim as many as I can find and kind of try and blend the news of the day with these characters and their settings, and they tend to lead things. But it's very much a symbiotic thing. As I recall, the blogosphere, it's still around, but it used to be the place. And then the social media took over, but social media is not designed for the best of intentions, I'd have to say, but it's going to be there. But it's starting to come back around to the individual content creators like Substack and others, and you have aggregators might have a little more problems with ChatGPT, but it also depends on your audience. If you can get on that audience's short list every morning consistently, that's a good thing.
Right.
Because people like repetition. People, and I include myself in this, we crave, what would you say, consistency, security, no surprises, which of course is the antithesis of life itself. You just can't have that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you try and go to a place at least where it's kind of happening.
It's comfort, you know. You're right. Everything that we do to get away from the realities of the world is about building comfort, and yeah, it's not the normal state of things, you know. So.
Yeah, and the older you get, the more you realize that, you know, a day without an ache or a pain is a pretty nice thing. But
right.
yeah, now people work in stories, metaphors. Every culture does that, and that almost predominantly humans trade stories. And so what you and I do and others are no different than the rune stones or whatever. It's just trying to find an interesting take on it, and hopefully give everyone who reads us a better day, or at least a more informative day. And it's just a little tough in tough times like this. You know, you see everything kind of going to crap, but there's also some good things coming up too. And if you can imagine the U.S. finally freed of the parasites of the last 150 years, it would be something to behold.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of drives your politics? I mean, did you have kind of a conversion, or was there a moment in your life that you said, well, wait a minute, I'm not this young person that believes in this sort of liberal, you know, utopia kind of thing anymore. I've matured and become, you know, intelligent. Was there somewhere along the line that happened?
In the Valley of the Sun in Mexico, when I was 7 years old, I essentially became the same person I am now. Same politics, same everything. I just kind of woke up. It's kind of weird, but I got a sense of time passing. I'd been on autopilot then, and I had a very good family, just the perfect family, and learned a lot from them. But my politics have been my parents' politics and my sisters, and basically I call them common sense politics that almost any culture would want. But, you know, I was back, I was 66, I was in Pyramid of the Sun, was it? But just sort of a jarring moment, I guess, woke me up from autopilot. But yeah, no, I haven't had a conversion. I was 64 years old when I was 7 in my head, so I'm finally catching up with the body.
You know, it's funny. I guess it's kind of like, you know, like minds gathering together and whatnot. But your background, your history there is very similar to mine in terms of I've been the way I am for a very long time, since I was a very young person, and you know, younger than 10 years old at least, and I've been drawing since I was 3. So I didn't have anything formal training either beyond just I took every art class I could take in high school, and but yeah, I mean, art is something that I've been doing for a very long time myself. I even dabbled in doing a comic at one time with some friends of mine, and but yeah, I guess that's kind of the great minds think alike kind of thing.
Well, I would say keep dabbling, because it's kind of odd in a time of massive censorship and a looming communist regime. There's actually more, as long as they don't kill the internet, and I don't think they can at this point. Even China has a hard time shutting off their thing. It's too far gone for them to stop, I hope. I believe so. So you have a free medium to send your ideas out worldwide, and that is, you know, you can do what you need to do like you do with your site, just from your house. I never had an office, and so if you have ideas, go ahead. I've never found formal training to really help me in anything. It was basically whatever motivated me. And if you look around, you know, your site is so much better than, well, obviously any mainstream media site. I hate to even bring those in. It's just, it's a take. It's I guess people with common sense, maybe they're a little rare now, or the culture. Was it the weak men bring bad times, and bad times bring strong men bring good times. It's like a cycle kind of a thing. And we're in that part, but I would say the normal people, I call them normal, they're still there, but they're being crushed they're being targeted by the communists, the globalists, but so much is being revealed now. I never even heard of a deep state 5 years ago.
Right.
It's Trump the lightning rod. That's fantastic what he did. I think he got sandbagged when he was up there, and he was viewing it maybe as a businessman and didn't realize everyone is a snake in D.C. Several layers deep. So, but you've got Robert Kennedy. Is that Robert Kennedy?
Yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's talking about how the CIA killed his uncle, and you've got all these things starting to come out. The only question, there's going to be victory for us Americans, normal people, I think. But the only question is, it's not. I'm not worried so much about these clown world. It's whether 80% of the somnolent American public ever get off their couch and do anything. That's unfortunately the history of most societies. The great mass will just do nothing until they have no choice, and they'll go with whoever leads them. But there's the 3% on either side of the spectrum. Last time we won in 1776. This time, these 3% globalists or communists they keep changing their name. You could run off a hyphen, but and they know they're scum, but they keep changing their name to change it. And it's right now they have the upper hand because they marched through the institutions. We all know this, but I don't know. Maybe you've heard. I've heard that the youngest generation, the Z generation or X, they're becoming conservative or are because they have zero opportunity in the country as it is now, especially if they're happen to be white hetero men.
Yeah. My son is very much conservative, and it's not necessarily from my influence on him, even though that's certainly there. But yeah, just his exposure to the world today, and the society that he's grown up in has turned him that way. And you're right. I think it's getting a lot of these Zoomers, the Z generation guys, especially the males, and the white males. It's certainly a very bleak proposition, and that tends to drive you to a certain way of thinking. So,
well, I guess perhaps World War I and II bled off a lot of great talent, and whites I think are 14% of the world population, which means men are about 6.5 or 7%, which means there's very few of us, but we have incredible influence around the world. But if we want to keep what we have, we're definitely being targeted. I mean, there's no question about it. By some, it's so odd. Every country is being ruled by a clique that hates their own country, or at least I would say white men. Western man is probably a better thing to say, and is targeted for extinction. On the other hand, once I think Western man gets rolling, there will be no prisoners, I think.
Yeah.
Or we'll just disappear. I don't know. Everyone has their day. The Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, Asian, the Chinese. Everyone has their day. But I don't think our day is here yet. Or I'm guessing the U.S. will probably split up into red states, blue states is my guess. But you never know, because so much of the population, you just can't even talk to them anymore. I don't know if you've had some liberal friends. I had some.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and they just got impossible to talk. I didn't move anywhere. They went way left, and it's almost like a cult. It's bizarre.
I've had friends that I've known for 40 years that they got more to the left, and I did not, and it has become I have to limit the interaction that I have with them. And just avoid political discussion at all. It's like, well, we'll just talk entertainment, but you can't even talk entertainment these days without it becoming political. And that's kind of the downside of everything. Is they've politicized everything, so you can't just have a normal, conversation that doesn't have some kind of undertone or political affiliation associated with it. It's insanity.
It must be an exhausting way to live, to constantly have to move your goalposts to. It's that same old Jacobin thing in the French Revolution. They keep purging their own members, and once they don't have an external enemy, but they always have enemies, and in the end, they're their own enemy. And it's apparently a human cycle thing. There's really nothing you can do about it. So I really don't see any point in compromising with these people, and I honestly do not see them as Americans at all. I frankly see them as my enemy.
Yeah,
certainly my government. What a joke.
Yeah.
That installed regime. That's my enemy. Absolutely, it's an enemy to the Constitution, and they're just getting their freak flag on. They're just kidnapping people from red states and taking them up for a kangaroo trial there and throw them in on anything. But red states are slowly waking up. It's just that the classic top-down communists have an advantage, is that they're herd creatures and they all move as one, and they believe it's a cult, and they will not stop until they're defeated one way or the other. So we'll have to see what goes on. But no compromising with them. It's like the character Sam in my comic strip. She wasn't so well endowed, I would say, but every time a liberal moan about it, I'd make them bigger. And it's not my fault. You see, I'm a victim. There we go.
You've been driven by your environment, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to say what I damn well please, and it's to the point where you may as well, because it's obvious the government considers any American, normal American, an enemy. And if you sit quietly in your room and hope they don't get you, they're going to get you. They'll make up something anyway. Right. It's like, who's that guy? I should know. Douglas Mackey. He did that meme of Hillary Clinton. It was a meme back, I don't know, 4 years ago. And it was a joke. It was meant as a joke. Text so-and-so to vote for Hillary. And anyone could see it was a joke. And he's facing 20 years in prison now. Basically, He does what I do. He does what I do, only not in cartoon form. It's a joke, but everyone knows communists don't have a sense of humor, and anything that makes them look silly, which can be anything, is a criminal act. But on the other hand, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and they can bite me, because, it's once you sign off, you're kind of done. And that's the thing. When will they have to probe? It's a classic bully in the schoolyard thing. They will keep pushing until they get clocked in the face. And I think probably the next thing will be, COVID didn't work, worked in some ways for them. There's always a calamity, make it worse, and then claim you need more government power to fix it. Make it worse. It's an endless cycle, rinse and repeat. Problem is, most people the average IQ is 100. They're not going to wake up until it actually gets them in the butt, which, as you mentioned, I think once Devolution, was it Patel Patriot wrote something about it? I have hopes for that, but I just know it seems too fantastic. But then again, I never thought there'd be a deep state Klaus Schwab who dresses up like Dr. Evil. I mean, what are the odds? Would you believe that? I wouldn't believe that.
No, I go back and look at things that I looked at as a kid, and my idea. I grew up, came of age kind of in the late '90s, or I'm sorry, actually late '80s. But our idea of the future was Blade Runner. That's what we thought the future was going to be, and it was dark and it was dystopian, but it was cool. It had an aesthetic to it, and we got the dark and dystopic, but we didn't get any of the coolness. we got this lame Star Trek-y kind of look that is just horrible and fake, and everything.
Well, it's the Blade Runner was right about all the Chinese influence, except it's basically they own our government, most of our officials.
Yeah.
It's a dystopian thing, but there is some hope, I think, in the future. Mainly because I can't decide if they're evil or stupid. It may be a combination of both, but I do know their cult requires them to run it out to an end run to say eventually. I imagine they'll go for our guns next. And it'll be like New York. And when New York did that, you got to comply. And what 4% did, the rest said pound it.
Right.
That's not going to happen. And I think people are getting closer to saying, you know what, I'm not paying my taxes anymore. You're just running the bill like nuts. You're giving money to all these countries, and you're running us. You're targeting us. So we'll see. I don't know. It's
I think we're at a point where people are just not going to have the money to pay the taxes. You know,
pretty much.
You know, everybody is going to. You're going to get the payroll deduction, but anything else is people are going to not be able to pay it. You know, it's going to be, hey, I can't write a check for $1,600 to the government. I don't have it. You know, this kind of thing. And so yeah, then what do they do? What do? They weaponize the IRS. So are they going to be coming door to door like medieval times and shaking people down for coins? You know.
Well, no. Their whole hope is that they hit a few spots. If they can, they're hoping that neighborhoods don't wise up to them, because they haven't really tried anything in Red America suburbs yet. They will, but eventually they'll do that, and they'll get a few families. They already have, but they push hard enough, they will find that the street will be blocked off at both ends.
Right.
And they will not get out. And their mission is to break the middle class, especially the Western man, which is, again, sorry, white males. But they combined. I have to, that's a wonderful thing about a belief, that Christianity lost its power, and so secular goes for something, and that's belief in government. And it combined with a form of feminism to be incredibly toxic. Matriarchies have a horrible record everywhere in history. For security, they'll be more tyrannical than any tyrant can be. And they are herd creatures. They all think pretty much alike, certainly in politics. And you cannot reason with them. That's a 64-year-old bachelor talking there. But it is a truism, however. And honestly, you have to take away their right to vote, because it will never work as long as they're voting, because they do not vote for free or abstract freedoms at all.
No, I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. My wife does not like that, but I certainly agree with it.
It is what it is. You can ignore it, and you end up where we are now. I think the average age of any democracy that gave women the vote, I think there were 3 of them, I can't remember what they were, took them 70 years, but every one of them crashed and burned. And, name one matriarchal run country right now that's not in trouble. All the West is in trouble because they're all run by women, or women-thinking men, or whatever. Russia, China, they're frankly creepy nations, their records, but they are run still by a masculine, basically logical thing. A horrible thing, but so they're doing very well. And when you see them all going to the BRICS system and we're still on the SWIFT playing with money, does not bode well. But just think of what will happen if we manage to come through this and reconstitute as a republic. That would be interesting. It won't be the whole U.S. of A., I don't think, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, very much, very much. I agree with you. I think there is a brighter future ahead. There is something good that will come out of all this, but there are days that I don't know if that's true or not. I see things that happen, and just when I think I've seen it all, I open the internet for the day and something surprises me. So
it is. Humans tend to gravitate towards bad news. There's a nice site called Good News something or other, and it's just a form of the primates that we are, that we tend to look for danger first and comfort later. And there are some very good things happening. The fact is, everything clown world, and I think that's a great term because it encompasses basically what they are. Clown with a K, I'd say.
Yeah. They're failing. They're failing because they're becoming known. I never heard. You and I mean, we were in politics a long time ago. Never heard of this stuff 5 years, maybe 7 years ago. But it's coming out every day, and there are more and more people on Substack. Twitter got freed by Musk. Yeah, it was a clever thing. Someone said that, why are there no conservative billionaires? I think they're Peter Thiel's style, however you say it, but he's kind of a rhino. But it's kind of funny, if Elon Musk becomes, or he seems to be, it's up to him, he could buy all the billionaires in one shot. Right, yeah.
But it's a shame. I mean, but that's why we got wakened up, because we had a billionaire who could not be bought, and he just kind of ran in there like a bull in a china shop and kind of exposed just how it's like turning on the light and all the roaches run. Realized DC is a pit. That's got to change because there's no hope without that. But there is, all the paper, there's nothing wrong with our laws. There's nothing wrong with the Constitution, Declaration, Bill of Rights, beautiful documents. It's just we have the pig and the python thing. We have a huge generation of, unfortunately, communist-taught people, and basically kind of fat, lazy, and spoiled, and it has to bite them in the butt before they'll wake up. And maybe that's part of that devolution thing. I don't know. But your readers and my readers are like on the cusp, on that edge of they're interested in what's going on. So it's a pleasure to do something every day for them.
Yeah, that's kind of what drives me on and keeps me doing things. I know it's something that motivates Concerned American over on the main page. Is just the idea of you want to do something, and you just have this compulsion to do something and put something out, and even the times that I struggle with putting together a show, it's like I can't not do this. I have to do this because I feel like a failure if I have not.
Well, they're very good. Communists are very good, and I'm just going to call them communists because they have at least 9 different titles because they're snakes that they are. But they're very good at ratcheting up pressure, crashing everything down, taking power, killing everyone, and then finally being defeated in some manner. But everyone is waiting to see who takes. It's like the penguins on the ice floe.
Right.
Everyone's waiting to see who's the first to go in there with the killer whale, but it turns out the killer whale's a clown whale, and it doesn't have a mouth. And once that gets rolling, it's going to be, you'll see the penguins eating up the killer whales, I think. They are just holding it together by printing off and ruining, of course, our money system, which was designed to fail, but could have been staggering along, I'm sure, for another 10 or 20. But everyone has too much to lose at this point because we're a well-off nation, or we were. But they will keep prodding, and everyone knows because George Soros corrupted our justice system. If you do anything in defense of yourself, you go to jail from corrupt justice system, judges everywhere. So even if you defend yourself, you go to jail. But it's guaranteed they will do it enough to enough people that finally someone will say, I'm not agreeing with this. Come and arrest me, and I'll blow you away.
Right. Yeah, I've been waiting for that thing to happen. We've seen it sort of happen a few times. But I believe the same way. I think that there's going to be some level of tolerance that people will get to or intolerance, where they say I've had enough, and then it starts becoming widespread.
I think we've already seen that in the red states versus blue states. And you're seeing Texas has actually a bullion depository. They're making gold and silver legal tender in several states. So you've got Greater Idaho and New California. They're starting to split off the way it was meant to be. There's nothing that says we have to be states together. Before it was the United States of America. It was the States of America, or something like that. I do believe, because it was
Articles of Confederation. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at all the paperwork, frankly, we're on the right side of everything. But of course, we know they don't hold to any of that. So we just need to kind of make our parallel systems, and it'll take us longer because we have a job supporting them, and they're trying to break our money and our will before we can actually say, you know what, I think we're done with you guys. We're going to be over here, you be over there, and don't come in.
Right.
But it's a very interesting time. I guess they call it a fourth turning or something. I wish it had been 30 years later. I stagger around at 64. Yeah, the 64-year-old guy that means responding heroically to a SWAT raid is more likely I'll trip and blow my own head off with it'll be like the most embarrassing death you've ever seen. Like he's tripped and fell on a pie or something like that. That's just so me. So it wouldn't be heroic, but I'm hoping to avoid all that by the red states getting rolling here. And who knows? Maybe the U.S. of A. will reconstitute. I don't know, but it's gone about as far as it can with these parasites. Something must be done, and they cannot stop, and we will not give in at a certain point, and everyone's waiting for that.
Right. Well, Chris, I think we've gone about as far as we can go with some of that.
Okay.
I appreciate. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I appreciate you doing the show, and I wish you well, and keep doing what you're doing. I think you're putting out quality stuff, and you're doing a good job.
Well, you too. You're all part of you're one of the content creators that feeds Day by Day with news and like-minded people. It's an interesting. It's almost like the blogosphere returned in a way, and I think it's getting stronger than the media. So. Yeah, thank you very much. It was an honor, and I hope my readers come by and take a look. I think probably half of them do already.
Yeah, vice versa. So vice versa. I appreciate it. Thank you very much,
right.
sir.
You too, and have a great one, and we'll get back to it.
All right, excellent.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate that. I think the listeners really enjoyed that. I again apologize for the terrible quality in the recording. Unfortunately, just picking up that hum from the phone. But I think you still hopefully enjoyed that and got something out of it. Anyway, that is all we have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.